Hello and welcome to National Sew Jelly Roll Day 2024. I can't believe this is my third year of making these videos, but I've had so much fun and I can't wait for this year because it's going to be just as fun. So we're on year 3. The first year I made the Tiffany quilt. The second year I made the mazed quilt, and this year I was actually aware enough on the internet because I had just made Half Step from Project Jelly Roll 2023. I was telling somebody about it and I opened up the website and the 2024 patterns were there. So instead of doing a Villa Rosa pattern this year, I'm going to be doing a Project Jelly Roll pattern, and the Project Jelly Roll pattern I picked is Contessa. So let me show you that pattern. So this pattern really jumped out to me. I just liked how simple it was with the striping and then the background behind it. And so I decided I was going to keep with my usual use of the Island Boutique jelly rolls, and I had 2 in mind because I had a certain person in mind. So last year I did actually have a specific person in mind. Last year's quilt went to my husband's sister, and then the year before I didn't have somebody in mind. So that quilt sat around for a year, and then I got the idea that instead of doing a bouquet toss at my wedding, I would do what I called a Trixie toss, where I tossed a little stuffed animal version of Trixie, and the recipient, unknown to them, would win that quilt. So I tossed it twice because it didn't go well the first toss. The first toss actually was my husband's best man's wife who caught it, and so she brought it back to me, and then the actual Trixie went to my niece. And so unknown to Denise, she got to take the Tiffany quilt home with her. And so this year I have a really good friend of mine who I've known since high school. She's been having some hard times in her life right now, but she also just, I feel like I'm gonna get this wrong. She also just finished her classes for a master's degree in, I wanna say, infectious disease. So yes, gross, but she is very much a sciencey person, but also very much a girly girl person. So, so with that, I asked Instagram whether I should do one of 2 jelly rolls, whether it was Blinded by Science, or I think it's Positively Pink or Past Something Pink, one of these 2. And so Instagram said, do the science one. And luckily, my good friend, who this is going to be going to, was one of those people that voted, because I know she's on Instagram all the time, and I was really hoping she'd vote in that poll. So we have, this quilt is going to be made out of Blinded by Science. So here is our Blinded by Science 2.5-inch strips. It looks like what I'm gonna need to do first before I do anything with these is I'm gonna cut out my background, and I also am gonna be using this as the binding. I know you're probably going, really, Emily, a black background? But it does match to these grays in here. I think these are gonna pop really well. And with this as the binding as well, that means I can use one of these super fun colors as the minky on the back. So that's where I went with the dark. And I also think if I did one of these bright colors, it would just be too much. So I'm very excited to see how this is gonna come together. I've been looking at this pre-cut for a very long time, whether for a friend or my sister who is getting her PhD in physics. So I'm so excited to see how this comes together. So I'm gonna iron this out, we're gonna cut it out, and I think we're gonna get sewing right away. So I've got 84 of these strips. They're 2.5 by 10.5. At least I hope they all are. They should be. And then now what I'm going to do is I've got 40 strips here, so I need 7 sets of 5. And so I'm going to start taking these apart, mix them all up, and see what kind of variations I can get. And then I also will get to see what kind of fun prints are in there. So let's see what we got going on. got 7 beautiful strip sets all pieced together. Everyone that voted on Blinded by Science, you made excellent choices. And so now what I'm going to have to do is cut these in the size that they want. And then once I cut them, it's going to have me sew this strip along the side. So it makes this kind of, that kind of a block, but obviously more square. So I'm going to go cut these up and sew those together. And then we'll probably be at the design wall at that point. So this pattern had me use 35 out of my 40 strips, and somehow, I don't think I counted my strips when I cut these. I think I just went to town. I had so many of these left over. I could cut and piece a full another set. I think, which one was the last one I did? I think it was this one. This is the last set. These are the last 5 that I had in there because there's 40 sets in an Island Boutique set. And so I went back and forth. I think I am going to stick with a 6x7 layout, so it still ends up being 60x70. But I think what I'm going to do with the last ones, the last 6 or however many there are, I think I'm going to make a little table centerpiece kind of thing. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think it's going to be a little cute little addition and fun to do. So now I'm going to clear a path to my design wall so that this can get up there and we can kind of see what we're working with. They're kind of all sitting in their sets right now, so obviously like these two are very similar and I did not realize that, so I'll have to be aware of those two being near each other. But I think we got some good variety in here. That's gonna be a whole lot of fun. Trixie, why is it so hot again? Isn't it fall yet? So here is how this magical quilt is turning out. I kind of started with a pattern since I had 8 different blocks and shuffled them through. So we'll see how this turns out. I try to keep my pinks balanced, but oh well. This has turned into quite the jelly roll fun. So now it's time to take them off the wall and sew them together. So if you've been around since the dawn of Terribly Rad really getting going in 26 and 21, you may recognize this. Maybe you don't, but this is the spool of thread I bought to quilt my first quilt of 26 and 21 when I really started going with my YouTube journey, and we didn't have the small cones of black, so I've been slowly plugging away at this one. And now that these are dark fabrics, I'm gonna wind this on a bobbin and say goodbye to this big old cone. And then we'll be on to the next cone. So you've lived a good life. You've almost made it. 21, 22, 23, 24, almost 4 years. Good job, Black Cone of the Glide. You have served your purpose. So now our Contessa quilt top in all its blinded by science glory is complete, and now it is time to quilt it. So I may have to double check some of my seams here at the edges, but other than that, I think it turned out super awesome, and I'm so ready to quilt it. I've got some fabulous fuchsia minky that I am going to put on the back, and then I got some Glide Shadow, which is pretty close to this like almost black color without it being black. And then I'm gonna look at a couple of my designs, see what I have that kind of looks sciencey. I kind of just want something that gives all over texture. If I don't have anything like that, or nothing jumps out at me on Urban Elements, I'll probably go ahead and use Cakewalk so that it's nice and loopy and just all over and kind of some fun. So that's what I'm gonna do. This ended up being 60 something by 72. So what I'm going to end up doing is loading it in sideways. The length is going to go the 90 way on my cuddle, and then the 60 is going to be my height, so to speak. So then one, it'll get done quicker because it has longer zones and less of them. So let's see what happens. So we are now all basted in. That was a lot of pinning that had to happen with that 90 wide, but we are ready to party. I've got the shadow colored thread, which is really close to this here, all locked and loaded. It's going to be in the top and the bobbin. And then as far as design, I looked at some sciencey ones, but they were kind of goofy. So we're going to go with Cakewalk. I think it'll just add some good texture on there and really let these fun prints shine without overwhelming them too much. And then when it washes up, it'll give a nice little crinkle and be a lot of fun. So let's get this going. So the quilting's on there. It's just very subtle, which is kind of what I was hoping for. These bold colors are fabulous. And then speaking of bold, we've got our fuchsia C390 on the back. Get the little loop on there. So now I've got to go take over the living room floor and make a big fuchsia couple dust mess as I trim this up. But I've still got my walkie foot on my machine, so then I can put the binding on and check this off the list. Well, Contessa is here and she is ready to blind you with science. And I feel like I say this all the time, but I am obsessed and I love how this turned out. I think the background was the right choice with it being not a solid, but still being a batik, but not being like an overwhelming printy batik like a lot of them are. Like, I mean, not overwhelming, but just a printy batik, since it is that kind of watercoloriness, and it just lets the binding kind of do its own thing and frame everything up. And of course, we've got hot pink on the back. I happened to match it this one time, so no, that's not why I picked pink. I did my little sneaky Instagram poll, and that's how I ended up with my jelly roll choice. That's how I ended up with my backing. And now it needs to go to its forever home, to my dear friend and of at least 20 years. So I am very excited to see her reaction to this, because she is one that does very big reactions when she is very excited about things. And I think this is totally up her alley. It's sciencey, it's girly, it's fun, it's spooky a little bit. I just love it. I'm so glad I saw the Project Jelly Roll pattern before I started anything this year, and that I was able to find this one and that it came together so perfectly. So make sure you head over to Project Jelly Roll with Moda. Check out those free patterns. There's a couple on the list that I already want to do myself. Add them to my Forever Jelly Roll project list. And I just want to snuggle up with this so much. And I know it's going to be the perfect couch quilt now that we might actually be heading towards fall weather here in Northern California. It may actually get snuggled and used. And I just want you to peek this before you go. I've used another one of my quilt tags, and so then she'll always remember who it came from. So in the meantime, before I go gift this, let's take it outside, see if I can fit it on the fence, or if I have to enlist a husband or a brother to hold it, and then it's delivery time.